urban legends. The podcast about urban legends. Meet your host, that's right, Neil Chris Huntley. Hello and welcome to this episode of Urban Legends, the podcast about urban legends. And I am the former body double of Jarvis Cocker, Chris Flynn, and with me, he's an alien who's here to save the planet Earth, the superhero, sometimes known as, in his superhero form, Popcorn Pete. His day-to-day name is Mr.
Neil Herbert. Popcorn Pete. Da, 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 da.
Popcorn Pete. He's here to save
popcorn,
us.
but he's afraid he'd blow your minds.
So, Neil, or should I say Pete?
Just P squared is how I go.
P squared. How's your week been? You've been
not too.
You've been taking down any super villains with your popcorn powers?
There's an obvious one, isn't there? I won't get into that. There's
the man from Del Monte. He's obviously one of the big supervillains.
Yeah, the man from Del Monte. He was. I'll tell you what he's been up to recently.
He was
a bit shabby.
Taking over Guatemala, wasn't he? For his fruit plantations.
I was going to say he was selling booze to underage kids.
Really?
Bander's Juice Empire. Yeah, that's how he's making his profit these days.
So
the he's fell right out of the Tim Peaches market.
So he uses the sugary
those white suits. They're hell on the laundry bills.
He's using the kind of sugary fruit juice.
Yeah,
he's just adding some yeast in there, letting it ferment. Nice strong booze.
Yeah,
I've done that, literally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, and what ones of your wide range of powers did you use to defeat him?
My hypno-stare.
Hypno-stare.
Convince him to back off from evil. Yeah.
Okay. Your popcorn hypno-stare.
My popcorn hypno-stare, yeah. So
well, your eyes turn into kernels of popcorn and start spinning round.
They start spinning round and you hear sizzling and popping like a pan of popcorn, and the aroma of toasted corn assails your nostrils.
And you go
into a reverie, and then you're highly suggestible.
Start speaking in tongues.
I did make him eat a raw onion and dance around like a chicken before
Well, got to have your fun, haven't you? You're not getting paid for it.
Exactly.
So what planet were you from again? The planet which you were sent from, was that?
The planet Unexistium. Yeah, it sounds like a really poorly made up name, just like a placeholder. But no, it's that's
Unexistium.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like an English word, but it's something
completely different.
Ancient and heroic language. You should hear some of the poetry.
Is it like ancient Norse?
I suppose that would be a comparable. Yeah, they're quite feisty people, the Unexistiums.
So the Unexistiums, did they come down to Earth previously, and they were then worshipped as gods, like in
those
Marvel,
episodes of Star Trek, yeah,
or Star Trek, whatever.
Yeah, that's where Greek myths come from, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
You were, of course, you used to be called Mercury, didn't you? Because you used to rise across the sky on a popcorn chariot.
Highly poisonous and would drive people mad. Yeah. Especially hat makers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well, I'd like to say and I'm sure my listeners would like to say as well, from all of us, from the bottom of our heart, thanks very much for all of the work you do to keep us safe.
I don't do it that's nice, Chris, but I do it because it's the right thing to do, That and cold hard cash, obviously.
Yeah, cash for popcorn, whatever. Okay, so this week now, I know you've been.
You don't think people, why do you think everyone in cinemas goes and meets popcorn? I mean, it's a stupid thing to have in a cinema, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you're the reason why it's so expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You produce the popcorn yourself. We won't.
Yeah. Don't dwell on where the coatings come from.
people might not necessarily not want to eat it. Then where you produce the popcorn from, but then you sell it at an incredibly high inflated price.
Same with any food product.
Same with any food. Apples, especially. I want to know where they come from. No. Let's just say elephants are involved. So you've been on the socials recently, haven't you? Complaining about this podcast and said that we haven't had a ghost story in a while.
Yeah, well,
complaining, and you put out that
banging on about new Coke or whatever shite you. Actually, I shouldn't say that one because that's one we haven't released yet. But anyway, obviously, I use my psychic powers to predict that's going to come.
It'll be released before this one, I would think.
Yeah.
And you're putting up kind of polls on Twitter saying, "Do you think Chris is a prick?" And both of the options was yes. So is there something that you wanted to say to me face to face, as it were?
Chris, you're a prick.
Oh, thanks very much. thanks for spotting that.
I think it was fairly obviously called out in the bowl. Yeah.
I thought you were going to back. I misread the situation. I thought you'd back down.
Oh, okay. We all live in hope, don't we?
So this week we are going to be looking at a spooky tale, but not only spooky, it's also a true crime tale of sorts. And it's the Greenbrier Ghost, the ghost who helped solve her own murder, apparently, or did she, Neil? Initial thoughts?
It sounds unlikely, but you have heard of detectives, using the paranormal to try and solve crimes before it has.
Do they still do that?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Are they allowed to do it?
It's not a question of
doesn't it make a mockery?
Well, I don't think it's going to hold up very well in court. I'll say that much. But spiritual evidence. No, supposedly, and I don't know how. I doubt it's very common.
Evidence
you do
and
hear
that kind
of
of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I go and see some psychic. It's like, maybe you should go and investigate.
Have a look there. Have a look in that Stevie Wonder record sleeve. I reckon there's a knife in there.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, exactly. There doesn't tend to be particularly specific evidence, does it? I don't think. But have
a look in their flat. You might find some evidence.
Also reminds me of the 50s film noir, Dead on Arrival, where the man solved his own murder. He walks into a police station at the start of the film, and he's going, "I've come to solve a murder, my own."
Oh, really? What? So he knows
like
he's going to be murdered.
He's been given a slow-acting poison, and then he solves the mystery of who was trying to kill him, and then dobs him into the old bill.
Grasses him in.
And that's his big thing. He walks in, he's about to die, and he's like, well, he's going to die anyway. And I believe they remade it with Dennis Quaid in the 80s. There you go. That's quite a good little movie.
I like the film. I like film noir films.
Yeah. It's convoluted like most of those things. That's quite a good hook, though.
Yeah,
I've come to solve a murder.
My own. I don't play by anyone's rules, not even my own.
That is a maverick detective. Who killed you? I did.
Why? You'll never know.
Wouldn't you like to know, toots?
I'm actually
you were half as good a detective as me. Maybe you'd figure it out.
The irritating suicide.
Yeah. Well, just unhappy, I guess. Fuck him.
So let's get into this. So this is the article is from Mental Flows, which is a website.
I have heard of it.
Yes, we've used it several times, and it's by Matt Soniak, the hedgehog.
Thank you for your input, Matt.
So it was from September 24th, 2014. Updated October the 23rd, 2021, because there was a lot of stuff which could be considered Me Too in there by Matt originally, so if they had to go back.
Yeah, do a thorough scrub.
I'll be honest with you, things have changed. Things have changed over the last 7 years.
Mental Plus doesn't do that kind of thing anymore.
So,
far more inclusive place. I don't know anything about Mental Plus.
So, I'm just going to read the story, man.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
we'll do that, and then let's see what.
If you can't see this, but we've both got our hands up in the air, shrugging our shoulders as we're talking in a casual way. Why not? So, one January afternoon in 1897, Erasmus Edward, Shue, a blacksmith, sent his neighbour's young boy to see if Elva, Shue's wife of 3 months, needed anything from the market. The boy walked through the front door of the Shue's rural Greenbrier County, West Virginia log house and found Eva lying at the foot of the stairs.
Oh, no. Moided.
You're jumping to conclusions.
Okay.
She could have been having a sleep.
Fit of the vapors. Yeah, just having a sleep. Just thought that doorstep looks pretty cozy.
Could have overdone the tonics.
Yep.
He stood for a moment looking at the woman, not knowing what to make of the scene. Her body was stretched out, straight with her legs together. One arm was at her side and the other rested across her chest. Her head was tilted to one side. That's the tonics, if ever I've heard of it.
Yeah, sounds like it.
She's been on the Laudanum.
Hysteria.
At first, he thought that she was simply asleep on the floor. Because he's just a child.
Just have a kip down there.
Just have a kip on the floor, bottom of the stairs, like anyone would. He stepped towards her, quietly calling, "Miss Shue." When she didn't respond, he panicked and bolted from the house. He told his mother what he had found.
He's spooked this kid, isn't
he? Yeah. Well, spooked, yeah.
He's starting no film noir films.
He told his mother what he'd found, and she summoned the local doctor and coroner, George W. Knapp.
Well, she's covering both ends of the spectrum there, then. That's good.
Did she die? I don't know. Yeah. Knapp didn't get to the Shue's house for almost an hour. By the time he arrived, Shue had already gotten home, carried his wife's body up to the bedroom, washed and dressed her, and laid her out on the bed. He prepared her body for burial in a high-neck dress with a stiff collar and placed a veil upon the face.
I mean, it sounds quite suspicious, but they're different times, I guess.
But, yeah, that seems quite unusual.
Washing the body? Yeah. But, yeah, if you're out in the sticks, yeah. Some would call that removing the evidence. Yeah.
So, Knapp went about examining the body. Shue cradling his wife's head and crying the whole while. When Knapp attempted to examine...
distracting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this comes soon, but if you could be a bit more stoic and
come on. It's 1897, mate.
I mean, first you wash the corpse.
the 60s aren't for another 60 years. So when Knapp attempted to examine Elva's neck and head, Shue became agitated. And Knapp, who didn't want to provoke him any further, left.
That seems fair enough. Don't want to piss the guy off.
He found nothing
close to tears, but he was like weeping like a fucking scullion.
He found nothing amiss with the body parts that he had examined, and he'd also been treating Elva for a few weeks prior. So he listed the cause of death as everlasting faint.
Okay. Sounds suspiciously ill-researched.
Everlasting faint, and then changed it to complications from pregnancy. Everlasting faint was what they called like a heart attack or a stroke or something.
Yeah,
back in those days.
There you go.
So Elva's body was taken to a childhood home of Little Sewell Mountains, named after Brian Sewell, and buried, but not before a bizarre funeral where her widower acted erratically.
Father! He's flying up a few red flags, isn't he? Yes. I'll tell you what, if the end of the story is that she points a finger at him as a ghost and he's the one who killed her, it's going to be disappointing. I hope he's a red herring. I mean, that is what's going to happen, isn't it? But anyway.
Well,
let's not dwell on that.
He paced by the casket, fiddling with her head and neck.
What?
What about fucking drawing attention? In addition,
it's like one of them Poe stories, isn't it? He's guilty and he can't help himself.
In addition to
fortunately, surrounded by oblivious fucking idiots. Or just incredibly apathetic.
He's awful sad. Look, he won't start pouring paint on her neck.
I think there might be some bruising around the neck. Don't look at that. Oh, fair enough.
I'm getting agitated, Pax. Don't agitate me any further. In addition to the collar and the veil, he covered the head and neck with a scarf. of his favourite soccer team.
Then put a coat over the top of that.
Put a coat over the top of that.
Put
some straw over the body.
Yeah.
With loads of soil.
You're
why are you burying her in the casket? It didn't match a burial dress.
Why are you burning the body? We're going to have a burial.
It looked cold.
Yeah.
It didn't match a burial dress, but she insisted that it was her favourite and that she would have wanted to be buried in it. Watford Football Club scarf.
Yeah.
It's a favourite. She loved them. She loved the Hornets. He also propped her head up, first with a pillow, then a roll cloth. It was certainly strange, but most guests...
It's not broken. What are you talking about?
You're talking about platinum. It's not coming off. Why are you saying that?
Yeah.
And then with a system of pulleys.
You put a neck in a neck brace.
And
it was a favourite neck brace.
It was a favourite for body
wear
cast.
it at Christmas. Yeah.
It was certainly strange, but most guests likely chalked it up to the grieving process, as you would.
Hazing Grave is I'll be honest, it's an odd town. It's full of idiosyncratic,
it's a bit like La Pascalita's thing, isn't it? Which is, if you want to listen to that, it's about someone who, in grief, had a wax
an incredibly lifelike mannequin of their daughter made
and then put it in the shop window of their wedding dress shop. Grief gets to us all differently. Shu was generally liked and regarded without suspicion by everyone in town. He's a smooth operator. A mother's intuition.
Wow.
Everyone, that is, except Mary Jane Heaster, Elva's mother. She had never liked Shu. I don't like him. And even without evidence, she was convinced that he had murdered her daughter. If only Elva could tell her what had happened, she thought. Well, the thing is, you don't know that.
My second thought now is that Mama Elva has actually written the story here, and oh no, he's acting very suspicious. Kept craning the neck and turning around. No, so I had to use my medium powers to speak to a ghost. And
you see, I don't like it. I don't like it when when people write stories and they say, if only Elva could tell her what happened, she thought. Because you don't know what she was thinking. She could be thinking, I'm going to stitch this cunt up and then I get his wagon. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you don't know.
It's just a little bit of embellishment, just a bit of artistic license.
She decided to pray for Elva to somehow come back from the dead and reveal the truth about her death. She prayed every evening for a week until finally her prayer was answered, because that is how it works.
Yeah, the Bible is notorious about raising the dead. It's very pro. I remember Jesus was just like, if you want to speak to any dead people, that's fine by me.
If you pray for 1 week, once a day for a week, I'll send them down to have a chat with you if you want.
Yeah, well, it's like putting money in the meter. You've got to do so many prayers per day to sort of like to get the thing to happen. You've got to sort of
charge it up. Got to get the old spirit dynamo.
I won't explain exactly how the metaphysics work, but
But you do know. You just you're not going to explain it.
No. It'd be too complicated for the layman, Chris.
It's only for the initiated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like yourself.
If you've not got the holy orders, you're not going to,
It's only from people from the planet Unexistium.
Yeah.
They know about it. Hester claimed her daughter appeared to her in a dream 4 nights in a row to tell her a story. Supposedly...
Dreams are notoriously accurate, so that's already sounding good.
Yeah, well, it's a recurring dream, the most
that's
accurate.
True. That gives it more.
I had some really horrible dreams last night, Neil.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that was about. What's going on there?
Eating some cheese before bedtime?
No. Do you reckon...
Murdered anyone recently?
No more than normal.
No, okay, fair enough. Not any that prick your conscience.
No. It wasn't anyone who didn't deserve it.
No one of value.
In my opinion. Supposedly...
That encompasses a very high percentage of the Welsh population.
It's everyone minus maybe 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Bob Mortimer, Henry the Cat, and I don't know, Kim Jong-un. Yeah. He's all right. Don't mind him.
Well, he's born into it, isn't he? What's he supposed to do? Turn the gig down, you know.
The economy's tell you what, say what you will about him, but the economy's doing better.
Yeah. Can't make it on without breaking eggs, Chris. I said it many a time.
Exactly. You know, if things are going to be shit anyway, you might as well have a slightly better economy. So, it's evolution, not revolution now.
Absolutely.
Supposedly,
Pyongyang's never looked better, in my opinion.
Gorgeous. It's got that massive hotel where no one's allowed to stay.
Really into its own. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe it might be the European City of Culture next year.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Supposedly, the spirit appeared first as a bright light, gradually taking a human form and filling the room with a chill. Mm. Elva's ghost confessed to her mother that Shu cruelly abused her, and one night attacked her in a rage when he thought she hadn't made any meat for his dinner. Well, fair enough, isn't it? You haven't made me any meat. Well, you don't make meat. Ah!
Maybe he was like one of those really, if these substitute meats that they're making now out of I don't know, yeast extracts or whatever. Maybe he's just like a really early inventor of that.
Just like really militant vegan.
Fungus. Yeah, exactly.
He had broken her neck, the ghost said, as she turned her head completely around, 360.
Well, maybe she's an owl.
Maybe it was just an owl. A lot of these things are owls, to be honest.
That Cornish owl creature we covered. Yeah, I mean,
could have been the owl man.
Yeah, it could have been murdered by a husband, or maybe your daughter was an owl person.
Scratches up Scouse people. Yeah. So then the ghost turned and walked away, disappearing into the night while staring back at her mother, presumably with her head rotated.
Yeah. Spinning around like The Exorcist.
Yeah, or like back to front, the raggy doll.
Don't you like
that's a deep cut for people there. For all you raggy doll fans. Heaster went to the local prosecutor, John Preston.
Nice.
And spent the afternoon at his office trying to get him to reopen the case. Whether Preston...
But a really convincing dream.
An owl came in,
and
mate.
Also, let's face it, that husband is dodgy as fuck.
Well, we all really like him.
Yeah.
You've never liked him, have you? You
don't like anyone, Esther.
Yes, let's be honest. If you
not a people person,
if you bump into one arsehole a day, Hester, then you bumped into an arsehole. If you bump into 100 arseholes every day, maybe you're the arsehole. So whether not Robert Peston, whether Robert Peston believes a story about the ghost, we don't know. But Heaster...
I thought it was John Preston.
It was. I changed it to Robert Heston, the political reporter. But Heaster was persistent and convincing enough that he began asking questions around town.
I reopened the case.
Well, not officially, but, I can ask some questions.
Just ask a few questions.
Yeah, just one more question. Shu's neighbours and friends told Preston about the man's strange behaviour at the funeral.
I mean, look, we've given her a thorough autopsy. I checked her legs. Then why the husband did get a bit moody after that when I started going north from there. But, there's definitely no foul play below the neck.
Puritan.
That's what gagged himself. Yeah. 80-20 rule. You got, I mean,
I haven't got all day, Dr. Knapp admitted that his examination had been incomplete.
Mm.
It was enough for Preston to justify an order for a complete autopsy. And a few days later, the body was...
I think that would be kind of regular when bodies just turn up in houses, wouldn't you? But do an autopsy.
This isn't Quincy. This is 1897.
Done it.
The body was exhumed, despite Shu's objections. No, don't!
Nothing to say.
There's nothing to say here. I'm getting riled again. Knapp and 2 other doctors laid the body out in the town's one-room schoolhouse to give it a thorough examination while the kids were still there. A local newspaper, the Pocahontas Times...
They learn. Practical experience in these small towns. I think we missed some of that.
Hey, who here? Put your hands up if you want to be a coroner in future. Gather round. That's it. So
better than that week they brought in Ned the town drunk.
Yeah, or that time they vivisected the town drunk.
Yeah. Oh, look at the size of that liver. Woo.
Ooh.
Oh.
Hey, go on, give it a poke. He won't mind.
That's hard and scaly, isn't it? Oh.
Have a feel of that. Have a feel of my liver. So the local newspaper called the Pocahontas Times, unbelievably,
fair enough,
later reported that on the throat were the marks of fingers indicating that she had been choking. That the neck was dislocated between the first and the second vertebrae. The ligaments were torn and ruptured, and the windpipe had been crushed at a point in the front of the neck.
I mean, they got really lucky that Ghost decided to intervene, didn't they? Because that doctor's really doing a shitty fucking job.
Well, he's got I'm the doctor, I'm the coroner. I run the local grocery shop.
Yeah. I got time for this.
Oh, come on, Shoe's all right. He wouldn't have done nothing. He's got his gold.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. I mean, look, if Shoe's going to murder his wife, I mean, which one?
He looked really upset.
Yeah. He wasn't acting erratically at all.
It was clear Elva's death was not natural, but there was no evidence pointing to the killer and no witnesses. Shoe's strange behaviour since Elva's death stuck in Preston's mind and cast some suspicion on him.
Canny sleuth, isn't he?
Fucking brilliant. At the same time, Elva's mother had described exactly how her daughter was killed before the autopsy was performed. Maybe she'd done it, and the ghost story was an elaborate plot to frame Shoe.
Yeah, that'd be a good twist. That's what I was saying earlier, yeah. I like that one.
Skeletons in Shoe's closet.
Turns out 10 of his ex-wives disappeared in extremely similar circumstances.
You would be surprised. Preston continued to investigate and began to look into Shoe's past.
Oh, fucking hell.
He learned that Shoe had been married twice before. Yeah. The first ended in a divorce while Shoe was in prison for stealing a horse.
Well, you can't steal a horse, Chris.
Can't trust a horse thief. That wife later told the police that Shoe was extremely violent and beat her frequently while they were married. His second marriage ended after just 8 months with a mysterious death of the wife. Stroke your beers. In between these marriages, Shoe boasted in prison that he planned to marry 7 women in his lifetime. I'm gonna marry 7 women. Yeah. You know Henry VIII, big fan.
Tis bigamy. Yeah, I'm going to go one better.
Yeah, we'll go one better than Henry VIII. That's my plan. The previous wife's mysterious death and Shoe's history of abuse were circumstantial, but enough for Preston to bring him to trial. Easter was the prosecution's star witness, but Preston wanted to avoid the issue of her ghostly sightings. How's a witness someone who's been talked to by a ghost? Since Elva's story, as relayed to her by the mother, might be objected to as hearsay by the defence. Perhaps hoping to prove her unreliable, Shoe's lawyer questions Easter extensively about...
It all came to her in a dream, and it's been relayed by a ghost.
Or an hour.
Most lawyers would have a field day with this. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, this is 1897.
Right, yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
That's an open and shut case.
Perhaps hoping to prove her unreliable. Well, I mean, that's a fair tactic, I'd say.
Well, yeah, you know.
Shoe's lawyer questioned Easter extensively about the ghost's visitation on cross-examination. But this tactic backfired, with Easter refusing to waver in her account despite intense badgering by the lawyer. Many people in the community, if not the jury, seemed to believe Easter's story, and Shoe himself did no favours taking to the stand in his own defence, rambling and appealing to the jury to look into my face and then say if I'm guilty.
Yeah.
He's just shaking
You
his
saying I'm
fists.
guilty? You saying I'm guilty?
I'll kill you. I'm getting educated, please. The Greenbrier Independent reported that his testimony, manner, and so forth made an unfavourable I don't know why there's an English person there. An unfavourable impression on the spectators.
He's a notorious scrub. Gadabout.
He was a gadabout, a scrub. And he boasted that he was getting 7 wives and better than that of Henry VIII. That's none of that happened. The jury deliberated for just an hour and 10 minutes before returning a guilty verdict.
Hang him.
Oh no, he was sentenced to life in prison, but he died soon after an epidemic tore through the prison in the spring of 1900. He still lived until 1916 and never recanted a story about Elva's ghost. Maybe her story swayed the jury and won the case. Maybe it didn't. I mean, maybe it was the fact that his previous wives had said he was violent / had died mysteriously.
Yeah,
he's got a bit previous.
He sounds pretty guilty, doesn't he? I mean, it does seem quite circumstantial. You would have thought a decent lawyer would have gotten him off. I mean, he does sound guilty, but
maybe the ghost was all in Heaster's head, or maybe her daughter spoke to her beyond the grave, or maybe it was a strategic lie. But no matter who saw or believed what, without the ghost story, Heaster may have never gone to Preston and Chew may have never gone to trial. A historical marker in the Greenbrier County, commemorates Elva's death and an unusual court case that followed, noting that this was the only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped to convict a murderer.
Is that in America or is that all over the world? So I'd like to think it's
just in Greenbrier County.
Oh, just in oh right, okay. Oh, yeah, it's commonplace in New York.
It's all the time.
Ghosts on the jury as well.
If you don't have a ghost in the witness stand, you're really
have
unlikely.
At least one ghost witness. You're not likely to prove this case.
just better settle out of court at that point.
Yeah, I was going to believe you. What, just living witnesses? Well, that's not going to cut the mustard.
No, don't trust them. So,
yeah, it's a good little story. I quite like that. I mean, so this is all actually stuff what happened, and the question is whether or not truly she was visited by. I mean, the ghost didn't really solve her own murder, did she? It was more a kind of.
She did. Well, she said how she'd been murdered.
I suppose, yeah, she pushed her mum to sort of like get the case reopened. I mean, I'm quite liking the mother here, unless it is, as I say, just like she's just stitched him right up. But
so what I will say,
that, he's got the previous history, hasn't he? So yeah,
I'll tell you where it's appeared in popular culture.
Go on.
So Kate Letcher-Lyle, a writer and amateur historian, in her book "The Man Who Wanted 7 Wives," the Greenbrier Ghosts, and it's a long title. This is the title of the book, right? That's your first problem. The Man Who Wanted 7 Wives, the Greenbrier Ghosts, and the famous murder mystery of 1897.
Pick a title. You've got 3 there.
Yeah, exactly. Gave a dramatised account of the Greenbrier Ghost. Lyle explained in her conclusion in 1999 issue of Wonderful West Virginia magazine, in which she stated that Mary had probably made up the story of the ghost in order to make a compelling argument to open up her daughter's case. She said Mary knew Shue to be clever, unprincipled and persuasive. If he'd murdered once, he could murder again. Perhaps she feared that if no one validated her accusations, Shue would prove extremely dangerous. So pretending to receive news directly from Zona, she could appeal to the superstitions of her mountaineer neighbours and gain a lot of public attention. As it turned out, she didn't need the ghost story, for Shue was convicted, according to every account, strictly on earthly considerations without any unearthly ghosts. The story of the Green... Oh.
But it might have helped to sort of open the thing back up, mightn't it?
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, it got it a bit of traction.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. That's a good little twist.
Yeah, nice little con. Very much like
but quite rightly. I mean, look, the geezer's openly got out and said he wants to have 7 wives. That's dodgy as fuck.
He's He's divorced one, killed another, probably. Yeah. So the story of the Greenbrier Ghost is the subject of 3, Neil. Not 1, not 2, but 3.
1, 2, 3.
I mean, that went well. It was much worse in rehearsal. Stage adaptations. Jan Buttram's play, Zona, was produced in 1998 by the Greenbrier Valley Theatre, the State Professional Theatre of West Virginia. The Greenbrier Ghost, a full-length musical adaptation. Oh, my neck's been broken and it's been spinning around.
You go touching that neck. Shall around. Don't you go examining the body. There you go.
She would have wanted the scarf on for her burial. Yeah. Stuff like that.
I'm a man to be trusted. I'm going to hurt some wives.
My last wife died in serious circumstances. My next wife died in even more mysterious circumstances.
Oh, yeah, the book writes
Look itself, in my face and tell me I'm a murderer. If you dare, jewelry. Dare. Yeah. Sounds good. The Greenbrier Ghost, a full-length musical adaptation, was written by Kathy Sawyer, book and lyrics, and by Joe Buttram, music. The show premiered in 2003 at Greenbrier Valley Theatre again. So that's only 5 years since the previous one.
I mean, get some other stories, Greenbrier.
With subsequent productions in 2004, 2009, and 2013.
Well, there's some catchy songs, Chris, so I'm not surprised.
I tell you what, though, Neil, what you're not expecting is another full-length musical adaptation of the story is Greenbrier, 1897.
I guess it's melodramatic. It doesn't feel like it lends itself to music so much. I don't know.
Why have there been so many musical adaptations of it?
Well, I'm clearly wrong, yeah.
Very wrong. I don't know. Written and performed by
you could do a song by the ghost, a song by the husband, a song by the mother.
Wake up, mummy, my head's spinning round.
I'm a really unprofessional doctor. I really can't be able to do my job. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm kind of imagining all of them being like Charlie's musical in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Nightman.
Yeah.
Nightman. Ah! Oh, Dayman. That's it.
Dayman. Oh, no, it's a Dayman.
Dayman.
Karate and friendship for everyone, or whatever it was. Yeah. They performed that, didn't they? They actually did a live show, I think, for some fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So that was written and performed by the Lovewell Institute for the Creative Arts. The musical debuted on June 28th, 2018, and has had performances on June 28th through to June the 30th, 2018.
I'll be honest, I'd kind of go and see it, I think.
Shall we see if we can buy the rights, the European rights for it?
Yeah, because you're not going to get the American. Yeah, you get the European rights. I'm sure we could put it on somewhere in Brighton.
We'll do it for the Brighton Festival.
What, our own book?
Brighton Fringe.
Actually, there's nothing stopping us doing our own adaptation, is there?
Well, we've already got the songs.
Yeah, clearly. Anyway.
We've got the bones are there already, just got to flesh you out a bit. A Unique Grave, a 2017 novel by Sharon McCrum. Just the
Don't be having a go at the McCrums. The proud lineage.
Sharon McCrum, the spokes puppet for McVitie's, is based on the Greenbrier case. The Comedy Central show, Drunk History, profiled the Greenbrier Ghost and subsequent trial in the 2019 episode Believe It or Not. Trouble Brewing, a 2021 novel by Heather Day Gilbert, is based on the Greenbrier Ghost legend. No, I'm not going to go through further reading. So, Neil, I think that's about time for us to go through our almost too intimate scoring process where we get to see...
You make up some numbers with some ill thought through logic.
Into your soul. Into the soul of a... What is it? An unexistium man?
I told you wouldn't understand, Chris. Don't play with powers beyond your ken. It's just,
fair enough.
Just better to, as a wise man once said, look, when someone says something, can't you just accept it?
Just accept it.
It's easy to be cynic, isn't it? Easy to be cynical. Just make you feel like a big man, does it? Being all cynical.
Yeah, just accept what everyone says always.
Yeah.
What are you scared to? So, Neil, spookiness. And remember, this is a ghost story.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it's got to be as spooky as you can. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few sort of spooky elements. There's the justice from beyond the grave. Well, that's a nice thing. There's this horrific. I mean, take it at face value. This horrific guy. I don't know. Yeah, like boasting about wanting to have 7 wives, and presumably he was never going to come to a foul end. That's.
Well, he divorced the first one.
Fucked up. Well, this is the thing. Was his plan to just like,
Oh, it sounds like. Do you know what it sounds like? It sounds like classic escalation.
Yeah, you wonder, don't you? So that's very spooky. I think this guy's kind of like getting
a psychopath. Well, everyone liked him as well, so he does kind of fit the psychopathic.
Kind of
he's like quite charming and handsome.
Tetrad of personality things going on. So he can charm people, but he's kind of like he'd be a CEO these days.
Oh yeah, he'd be running. I don't know, running Time Warner, something like that.
Working for
or Chevron.
He'd be the
that's a haircut,
wherever Greenbrier is.
Exxon Mobil.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop naming companies that have CEOs.
Yeah. Wendy's.
Have you been to Wendy's yet?
No, they've just opened one in Brighton, haven't they?
Mm.
Yeah. Square burgers, Chris. Imagine that.
I can very easily, thanks.
I bang on about it quite a lot. I did have a Wendy's in America when I went to New York. It seemed fine. I don't know.
I've been to America, of course.
I've not eaten at like a burger chain for probably about 6 years.
I mean,
like a McDonald's or something like that. I'm not anti them. Do you know what I mean? Just don't tend to. Yeah.
Fancy a big burger, like a really nice big juicy burger would be nice, but that's a dream that I can never quench that thirst.
Feel. Yeah.
Unfortunately, for reasons that I won't go into. Mysterious reasons.
Yeah, you can allude to them, but let's not. I think it's I mean, it's more of a kind of like a more interesting than spooky, but I think the guy's spooky. Although the ghost has actually come here and it's sort of a force for good.
Hitting heads.
What's that?
Owl heads. That's right.
Oh yeah, its head goes around 360s. I mean, they cut out the bits with the projectile vomiting and crawling up and down the ceilings and what it got up to with the crucifix. But
well, I mean, you do wonder if, again, because this story's older than that. So maybe that's where they got the idea from for The Exorcist.
Could be. The
rotating nut.
Yeah, the guy's creeping me out, so I'm going to give it a 5. So the ghost actually isn't speaking; they're just kind of out for their justice. But and it's a reassuring story in the end because justice was served, which is still nice.
Yeah, he died of plague. Yeah, justice. Yeah. So. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a horrible murder, really, isn't it? That's what it looks like. I believe that he did murder, and he was a murderer, and probably would murder again. So people like that are inherently a bit spooky. The ghost stuff. I mean, it would be. I mean, it wouldn't be spooky because you've been praying for your daughter to come and turn up, and then you'd be like, "Hey," and then they go, "Whoa," with their head, spin it round, and then that'd be quite horrible. Especially if they were then walking off with the head looking back at you, staring at you. I mean, I think the lack of professionalism of the doctor/coroner is quite spooky.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, well, whatever, mate. Look. I've taken up enough of you. I've taken up enough of your time. You look sad. So yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to give it a 5. I think believability. So this all happened and so where we really stand is how much the mother believed and if there was a ghost involved or whether it was a clever trick by the mum. I mean, believability is high because this actually happened. She was killed, and this, there's court records and everything, so that's all good. Did the mum? You see, this is the thing. I think by saying that the mum did see a ghost or what she thought was a ghost, and that was coincidence, and that it wasn't planned, and that's how the trial got reopened. I think it's doing her a disservice. I reckon she's played a blinder. I reckon she's played on
I like
people's
the theory that the novelist came up with. I think that's a nice.
So I don't think that the mum even believed there was a ghost, but I reckon she believed that the guy was a prick and he'd done it, and then she came up with this as a way to get bit of traction to get it actually properly looked at. So I don't believe the ghosts bit of it because I think, but I do believe that the mum used that as a good way of moving things forward. So I'll go, and it did all happen. So I'm going to give it a 7 for believe. Actually, I'm going for an 8. Going for an 8.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Probably similar premise for me. So, pretty much all of that, to be honest with you, Chris. I think like you, I don't necessarily believe that she was visited by a daughter from beyond the grave. But then, as you say, I quite like the story. I mean, I suppose it's up to you. You can decide whether it's nice, isn't it? Because you can make your own mind up. One of those stories.
I hate that. I like just to be told.
Oh, really? No, I like a bit of ambiguity. So you can take it one way or the other, which I think is quite nice. But like you, I kind of tend to think, she probably just used that to reopen it because he was a popular man about town. But that then, actually, my daughter's come back from the grave, and you can't just be willing to look into this further. So that going to push it back open.
I reckon she absolutely badgered that Preston guy until he had a look.
Do your fucking job.
Yeah.
So no, because so much of it is based factual information, I think you've got to give it. I'm going to give it a 7 rather than an 8. But I think you've got to give it quite a high score because so much of it is based on documented evidence.
Cool. Right. Neat. Neil, Reach.
Reach. Again, unsurprisingly, never heard of this one before. So it happened quite a long time ago. I mean, it's one of those ones. It's a funny one because actually it's more.
A lot of musical theatre's based on it. Some people say that it was the start of musical theatre.
Yeah, musical theatre arranged from this. Yeah, I mean, Gilbert and Sullivan did an operetta on this, didn't they?
They did.
I mean, it didn't go down like Pirates of Penzance, but there you go. It seems to have spawned a lot of musical theatre, which is nice. I think that's good. I mean, that's I think that's unique in the canon thus far for us. He killed me. I mean, I can't imagine it's. The thing is, it's one of those ones. It's not. It's a bit less of kind of like a bit of folklore or what have you. It's more of just like quite a cool story.
Yeah.
But it's obviously still being told, and you can have different interpretations of it. So anyway, let's get a bit into the narrative thing. Reach. I don't know whether this one's. It's not as big as some of the ones we had, I don't think. But I think because it's such a good story, and you can decide in different ways of whether you believe this or that. I think it's one that will stick around, and it's been around for quite a while already. It's probably well known around America. Yeah, so that's got to score quite high. It's another 7 for me, I think.
7. So, I mean, it's not one that I'd heard of until fairly recently. I think it's probably fairly well known in America, and it's 120 odd years old, and it's in, it's known as the only case where a ghost was a witness. So it's not got a huge reach, but it spawned some grease paint and soft shoe. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 6. And narrative premise. So it's quite a good story, isn't it? It's quite a good story. It's got a good narrative that, I mean, unfortunately it's a true story. So the narrative is a real narrative, like this kind of horrible bloke who'd kind of moved from town to town and was, came across quite charming, but then ended up like having a very kind of sociopathic side to him. Yeah. But the quick-witted mum managed to get the case reopened, and the guy went to trial. I mean, the thing is, it sounds like he was like kind of pretty like and charming and that, and then kind of was almost like premeditated that he was going to kill wives and stuff. But then when he did it, he like completely lost his shit.
Well, yeah, that's the way these things go sometimes, isn't it?
Well, not quite as fucking smooth as he thinks he is.
Well, the market slips, doesn't it? I mean, to be honest, quite often it's people who just make allowances for this kind of behaviour, and clearly it was just kind of like trying to sort of talk it down. But you could tell that they sort of obviously thought something was a bit. Well, I don't know how much of this is people reading into it in retrospect, but from the story that was told, it certainly sounded very dodgy.
But I think it's a good narrative premise. So yeah, I'm going to give it. And also, I mean, it's good enough to have
spawned many a musical,
many a
most
musical.
Demanding of narratives.
Yes, the most demanding of stage shows, the musical theatre. So I'm going to give it another 7, I think. Now,
yeah. So I'm not sure if I actually wrapped up on the Reach one, so I'll just quickly go. I did. Okay, I'll give it a score, did I? Yeah.
Yeah, 7.
I'll shut up. So I'll go with the narrative. I really like this as a narrative because I think it's like there's a bit of ambiguity to it. So it's also quite a clever twist, like the ghosts kind of pointing out their own. I mean, I suppose that's probably something. Actually, there's probably other versions of that.
Well,
but the
Hamlet,
fact that it went
isn't it?
Well, Hamlet, his father's ghost is kind of like comes in, and then you hear about people, vengeful ghost coming back from the grave. But that all ends in tears, obviously, because everyone just gets killed up right nice in a Danish court, and then Polonius walks in and sort of, was it Polonius? No, that was the boring dad, wasn't it? I can't remember now. The chap who comes in at the end and just like take over, nice. But yeah, so. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, so that one's probably kind of like the story that's been talked for. But no, I like the fact that you can interpret it as the mother actually being haunted by it could have been a dream. She was grief stricken. It could have been a real haunting, or it could just be her just using that to try and sway people. And I like that version of the story. So I think the fact that it's got that built-in ambiguity is really good, and that gives it a bit more of a kick. And just the twist about it all going to trial and everything as well is quite good. Although it sounds like it's probably more of a conventional trial, but this is the thing, you can embellish all of these stories, and that's why it's got a good narrative framework. So actually, I'm going to go quite high on this one. I'm going to give it an 8. I think it's one of the better ones that we've come across.
Nice. So that gives us an overall urban legend score of 51, which is nice high one, isn't it?
That's
very
high. Nice to have a high one after a series of fairly average ones recently.
Absolutely. So if you have heard someone in prison bragging that they are going to kill their wives moving forward.
Future wives they've met, yeah.
Perhaps...
such a romantic.
Perhaps, get in touch with the authorities. That'd be the first thing. Although you might not want to be a grass... I don't know the politics. But, you can always let us know that or anything else or any...
or no, I would really go with,
anything that you'd like us to have a look at urb.legends.podcast@gmail.com. And that's it for this week's episode. If you are interested in writing some musical theatre, then I think me and Neil have conclusively proved that it's our door you should be knocking on
get in touch.
For the songs.
I'd love to work with you.
Get in touch. We're delighted to work with you. Obviously, depending on some small things around scale. Percentage points, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's it from this week's.
3 points off the back end, Chris, not a penny less.
I'll let you do the negotiating, Neil, because I don't even know what that is. All right, and I will say goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Laters.